Welcome to True You Ministries with pastoral counselor Stacy Echeverria. Stacy is a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught her the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. We're grateful that you've joined us for this week's broadcast. You can learn more about Stacy and her heartfelt desire to help people much like yourself who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling her at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344. Or feel free to email her at info@trueyouministries.com. And welcome to another edition of True You Ministries. Stacy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
I'm always good, and I always feel blessed to spend this time with you. I always get encouragement in the Lord, and really motivated to take on the rest of the day. So today's topic is coping with the holiday blues.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people deal with. I think there was even a person with the initials of EP that had a song about it, a Blue Christmas.
Yes.
But so can you give us a little background, a personal story dealing with coping with the holiday blues?
Yes. So this is always my favorite time of year. I love it. I love this time of the year. And yet there's always been a lot of sadness around it and just challenges and struggles, because I did not grow up in a family where we were content or happy. And there was always something going on that would ruin a holiday. And we didn't really embrace the true meaning of the season. And so although this is a beautiful time of year, it gets lost when you don't have the family that you want, or the type of family gatherings that you're wanting, that end up making it so miserable. So I always ended up dreading this time of year because it was always just so difficult and miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people dealing with myriad of different issues during and it's especially, why is it highlighted during this time of the year? Why does it seem to be
Yes.
amplified?
Yeah, amplified. Yeah, absolutely. It's highly emotional. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of busy thing. People are busy, and they're busy doing things rather than being in the presence of the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are expectations that are unrealistic that people want to meet. And let's have the perfect decorations, and let's have all the lights strung up, and you get to the point where you're asking, why are you doing all of that? Who is it for? Right?
Yeah.
Simple is better, I think. And really looking at the motivation behind why you're doing what you're doing. Are you competing with your neighbors with regard to how many lights you're going to string up outside? Or are you going to have the perfect Thanksgiving dinner or the perfect Christmas dinner? How many presents are you going to buy? How much are you going to spend? It just ends up becoming so much more about the external than it is about what this season is really all about. And I think because of the high expectations, that's why the emotions are amplified. Plus, add to that, if this is the first year of experiencing the loss of a loved one, it's the first holiday. So we're marking it, right? There's marking of we're missing Uncle Joe, if you will, or Aunt Sally, or a husband, a wife, a child, whatever it may be. That it's the first holiday season without them. And there's that, but there's a lot of different types of losses too that people are experiencing. And the holidays just tend to amplify either being alone, or there's a transition that wasn't a good transition, or a whole bunch of other things that may be going on.
And I know there's a lot of anxiety involved with it as well. And unfortunately, some people don't have a loving or a family that they 100% enjoy being around
Right.
all the time. Maybe they do some of
Right.
the time, but for an extended period, and especially for somebody that comes from out of town or
Right.
moved out of town and comes back to town.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
with their family for 3-4 days during the holidays, and
Right.
when normally, oh, they've moved away, and you
Right.
maybe once or twice, or a weekend or something like that. So it's kind of an extended stay, I think, with their family.
Mhm.
It's an
Mhm.
unfortunate. I can't
Mhm.
imagine that because I love my family so much, but I've heard
Mhm.
stories from other people where they
Yeah.
said, "Oh, there's so much anxiety involved and pressure
Mhm.
and demands
Mhm.
on me during this holiday season when I'm around
Yeah.
my family."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a
so
lot going on.
yeah,
Mhm.
there is. What's some scriptures that you can share with us that deal with this?
Yes. So there's many. Let me go with Hebrews 6:19. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. And the hope is Jesus. That's
Mhm.
the hope. And he's the reason for this season, not to be cliched or anything like that, but he really is the reason for the season. We're celebrating his birth, although we don't know when he was actually born, but this is the time of year that we mark it. It's his
Yeah,
birth. So what does that mean to us? Right? So he is our hope. And also that the Lord is near with those near those with broken hearts. He saves those whose spirit is crushed, and that's Psalm 34:19. So for individuals that may be experiencing losses, and not just the loss of a loved one, but maybe the loss of family relationship. Some people are estranged,
yeah,
and I know that's been my experience. I'm estranged from family,
mhm,
and so it's hard. There may be job transitions. There may be other types of transitions going on where you're mourning those losses. And some of those transitions are positive and they're good, but they're still losses.
yeah,
And so knowing that God is near us, that he's near to those whose hearts are crushed, whatever may be going on, he's there.
yeah. And I think that is when you are kind of feeling down during Christmas, if you keep reminding yourself, you gotta put the Christ back in Christmas and
Hmm.
realize that that's the reason why we're celebrating.
Yeah.
Brings joy back to you.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
pray,
Uh,
read your scriptures, get
yeah.
refocused. Don't get distracted. We've talked about, the distraction, from other evil forces and Satan, and
Yeah.
so they try to
Yeah.
distract you, especially I think during the season with a lot of other things, and you got to keep your focus on the Lord.
Mhm.
Do that,
Mhm.
and that'll lift your spirits.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. The distraction toward what you don't have, what you might be missing,
Yeah,
and rather than what you actually do have, and that's the Lord. And when you have the Lord, you need nothing else.
yeah,
So you have all that you need. And when you and I first, before we even got on, to record the show, you had mentioned, and I had all these other things as to what may be going on with people, but you had also mentioned people that are single during this
mhm,
time of year
yeah,
and what they might be struggling with as well, because this is the time of year where it's about family and it's about couples, and maybe some couples are getting engaged, and there's a lot of things with couples this time of year, and there's romance in the air and the whole thing. And I remember what it was like being a single person during the holiday season and not being in a relationship and not having that. And I felt like I was on the outside looking in and that I was missing something.
yeah,
And there were friends that were married, and you always feel like you're the fifth wheel or something, or the third wheel,
yeah,
whichever,
yeah.
so that's hard too.
That does happen. Yeah, you see those commercials, and I want to know what couple gives another couple a car for Christmas. But you see those commercials where they come out and they've got the bow on top. I go,
I
who
know.
does that? I mean,
I
first of
know.
all, it's awesome and loving that be somebody wants to pick out the car that they're going to drive.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
just always think that is so ridiculous. But
I know.
we're inundated with that stuff. So if you're single, it can be
Yeah.
rough. I'm single, and so sometimes
Hmm.
I do get a little bit down, but
Yeah.
if and on another one of your episodes, we talked about gratefulness, gratitude,
Yes.
and
Gratitude.
so when I am down, especially in the seasons, I pray. I pray to the
Mhm.
Lord, And I thank him for everything he's given me, my health, my
Yeah.
job, my family, my friends. I am very blessed. I live in San Diego. So anytime I'm
Mhm.
like, woe is me during this, no, I just pray to the Lord and that
Yeah.
instantly kind of changed my perspective, which gets
Yeah.
me into my next question. What are
Mhm.
some things a person can do to navigate the holidays when they're feeling sad?
Yeah. So one thing is to find healthy ways to express your emotions. I know for me, when I am vocalizing out loud how I am feeling about something, it ceases to have power over me.
Mm,
It's amazing how that happens,
yeah.
right? Because we could get it all stuck in our heads and ruminate on it, but once we vocalize it, it's out there. It no longer has power over us, and then we can process in a healthy way. So, how can we express those emotions? Well, talk to a trusted friend. Is there someone that you can talk with that will just listen and have no judgment and not even necessarily have an answer for you, but it's just someone that you can express what you're feeling and feel better about it. You can also, if there isn't anyone around, you can also journal your feelings, write it down, and see how the Lord wants to speak to you in that, because He does. For me, this is my favorite one. I love getting out in nature. So I live in Southern California. It's sunny pretty much 365 days out of the year, and I can get out and walk in the morning. I walk with my neighbor in the afternoon. I go hiking once a month. I get out in nature, and it because we're in the creator's creation, if you will,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
nature talks to me.
Yeah.
Nature's talking to us, right? So that's another great way. um and then, for those of you that enjoy listening to music or dancing or painting or exercising, I also take Pilates classes twice a week. I'm with other people, so I have my own personal practice, but I'm also in community with other people, with other women, and we're having a really good time. And so it really is all about connection.
Yeah. Well, I liked what you said about hiking. I love
Mhm,
hiking myself, and sometimes
mhm,
any time of the year when I feel alone, I go
mhm,
hiking, and all those
mhm.
sounds, the
Yeah.
sounds of the birds and the
Mhm,
squirrels going through remind
mhm.
me I am not alone. The Lord's with me and all of his
Exactly.
creation around me. So I
That's
love
right.
hiking. And then my
Mhm,
with the uplifting music, I have a little tip for anybody that's like
mhm.
we talked a second about single during the
Yeah.
holidays. Listen to Christian music.
Mhm.
Listen to Christian music because sometimes when you are sad and you get in that little funk and you're listening to regular secular music, a lot of it is about love. Not the love for
Yes.
Christ, it's the love for somebody else. And the love we share, or baby, you're gone. I miss you so much. And so
Right.
just stick with Christian music and then
I will.
express the love for Jesus, which
Yeah.
should be our main focus.
Yes.
That's a little tip
Yes.
for you single people out
That's a
there.
great tip. I like that, Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Another one that I mentioned a little bit earlier is be realistic with your expectations during this time of the year.
Yeah.
Be present and don't get caught up in what others are doing. And then, ask the Lord, what does He want you to do? Does He want you to do everything? You can't. Ask Him what He wants you to do. And then I say 80% is perfect. So here I am, a recovering perfectionist. And when I first came across this particular concept, I was like, 80% is a B. That's not perfect. That's not 100%. That's a B. you know?
Yeah.
And what I loved, what I appreciate about this is that there's always room for improvement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's give the Lord some room to move in our lives in the way that He wants to move.
I like that.
And it's really not about perfection. I really look at it as, how can we be excellent in all that we do, and in all that we do that the Lord has called us to? How can we be excellent in doing that? When we're looking at being perfect, we're looking at performance rather than practicing the presence of the Lord.
Mm, yeah.
So being present with Him, right?
Love it.
And then
For those
just,
for
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. For those
That's all
just
right.
tuning in, this is True You Ministries with Stacy Echeverria, your pastoral counselor. Today's topic is coping with the holiday blues. And you can reach out to Stacy if you're dealing with those holiday blues or dealing with anything else. She does individual
Yeah.
counseling and couple counseling as well. Reach out to her at 626-461-3344 or email her info@trueyouministries.com. That's info@trueyouministries.com. Also, pretty soon, she's going to be doing a Q&A show. So if you have any questions on topics we've covered or topics we haven't covered, email her at info@trueyouministries.com. She's really looking forward to answering those questions. So
Right.
sorry, before
Yeah.
I rudely
All right.
interrupted you, what were you saying?
That's okay. Yeah, basically it's just don't give in to the holiday pressure. You know,
Yeah.
there's that. There's a lot of pressure to perform. Self-care is so important during this time of the year, but it's also important throughout the year, but especially this time of the year. So maintaining healthy habits, like making sure you're getting enough sleep, making
Mm,
sure that you're slowing down, right?
yeah.
Making sure that you're eating. Don't forget to eat, right?
Yeah.
Um, getting enough sleep, obviously, and getting some exercise. We talked about that a little bit. Running on empty will cause you to have, some health issues, and then take naps when possible. And when we get some exercise, for those of us that may be feeling sad or even depressed, when we get some exercise, we end up activating our endorphins, which tends to elevate our mood. So that's really important.
And
And
it
then
helps with
also,
anxiety too, right? Just because it
yeah.
burns off some of that
Mhm.
adrenaline. So it
Mhm.
can help you with anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then the last part of that is acknowledge your grief. Acknowledge it. You don't have to be going through the process and, getting done with it, but just acknowledge. That's the first step. Acknowledge that you have some grief because there's been some loss. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, it could be a tradition, the loss of time and memories with your family, the loss of a relationship, a job loss, or the loss of a way of life. We've all experienced some of that over the last number of years. So, really, with my show that I did previously, developing a heart of gratitude, even in these losses, how can we exercise gratitude? We don't know what the Lord prevented from happening by allowing the loss of that job, or maybe there was a move, or, and I'm not talking about the loss of a loved one. That's not what I'm talking about, but maybe there was a relationship that wasn't good,
Mm,
and the Lord did not want you to be in that relationship, and yet it is heartbreaking. And so I'm acknowledging that, but in time allowing the Lord to show you what it is that he may have prevented, in your life, or what is he moving out of the way so that he could make room to bring something else in.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
just don't know.
When dealing with the loss of a loved one during the
Mhm.
holidays, one thing
Mhm.
that I recommend is you pick up a tradition they did. So
Yeah.
honor them by something they were passionate,
Mhm.
whether it was like music they liked, or
Mhm.
when my grandmother passed away, I took up the
Mhm.
tradition of making deviled eggs so
I
that
love it.
there wasn't deviled eggs weren't there. Yeah, I made the deviled eggs every year, and we always every year when I bring out the deviled eggs, they say my dad always says just like Nana made. So
Oh, that's
that's
so
a,
sweet.
it's a way to honor them and remember them is to
Yeah.
keep up their traditions.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes traditions will change. And so, especially, so what was really hard for me around the holidays was when I got married and having to incorporate into my husband's family, right? Because my
Mm,
family, well, you've all heard, some stories about my own family and how difficult that was. As much as I wanted family connection, it was really hard for me because it was a constant reminder of what I didn't have with my own
ah,
family. And so for those of you that are newly married, and also talking to those that are in-laws, please welcome that new person into your family and integrate them well, and be sensitive to what they might be going through this holiday season.
yeah,
They may not have relationship with their own family. So this is hard. So help integrate them well, and don't have any expectations that they're going to be a particular way. Allow them to feel their sadness, but come around them and love on them the way that Christ would.
great advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
For those
Yeah.
just tuning in, this is True You Ministries with your pastoral counselor, Stacy Echeverria. You can reach Stacy at 626-461-3344. She does a free 20-minute consultation, and she's really good at networking too. So if she can't help you, she can guide you to somebody who can. Visit her website at trueyouministries.com if you've missed any part of today's show or you'd like to listen to past shows. Okay, so
Mhm.
my last question for today is, what would you say is the key element in coping with the holiday blues?
This is something we did touch on, and that is focusing on gratitude. It really is the key. So expressing gratitude for what you do have, not what you want, not what someone else has,
Yeah,
but focusing on what you do have. Expressing gratitude for what you've come through. And we've all come through so much in the last number of years, and we're going through a lot currently.
yeah,
Expressing gratitude for for how your experiences have shaped you, and then expressing gratitude for the future. We don't know what the future holds, but with the Lord in it, we know it's exciting and it's wonderful.
yeah, that is true. Very exciting. Very
Yeah.
exciting. And do you have some last words I'm sorry, some last scriptures you'd like to share with us?
Yes. So First Thessalonians 5:18, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ for you. And then Numbers 6:24 through 26. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine on you and show you his favor. And may he lift up his face toward you and give you peace. And I love that he is also known as the Prince of Peace. And boy, do we need that these days, don't we?
We sure do. We sure do, with all the hectic stuff going on in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So, and then this is also has to be tough for people that aren't believers right now. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yeah.
this whole season for them, it's just commercialism,
Hmm.
the feeling that you need to go broke to buy
Right.
everybody presents, and then you go into
Right.
debt and stuff. So
Hmm.
my heart goes out to them too. But what would you
Hmm.
like to say to somebody that doesn't know the Lord or has strayed away from the Lord?
Right. Yeah. So yes, this is the time of year of presents and gifts and all of that. And when we consider the presents and the gifts that we get, how long do they last? And how much time do we really spend with that thing that we really wanted? So we get it and it's exciting, and then we lose interest in it, and then we're pursuing the next thing.
Yeah,
So I would love for people to focus on the ultimate gift and present, and that is Christ Himself. That is a gift that lasts eternally. It really does.
yeah,
And so for those of you that have walked away, for those of you that are considering taking that next step, um, please reach out. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer your questions for you. But just know that Jesus Christ is the ultimate gift, and his presence is with you all the time. Even when you don't know him, he is with you, and he wants you to come into his presence. He wants to spend eternity with you. It's why he came, so
yeah.
that you would not be separated from him ever. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or if you want to take that next step.
Yeah. And then before we end too, I just want to go through one more time the healthy ways to express the emotions. You said talk to a trusted friend,
Hmm.
journal your feelings, get out in nature, listen to uplifting music, dancing, painting, exercising, and talking to a mental health professional like yourself.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
important. And there's so many
Hmm.
things out there. We did talk about, that sometimes being single, there's a lot of events that are geared towards couple, but there's also a
Yeah.
lot of cool things out there, those
Yeah.
candy cane lanes, get in your car, look at
Yes.
those lights. Christmas lights
Yes.
always bring joy to me. I even
Me
from a
too.
kid, I probably to the day I die, I will love Christmas
Right.
lights. I'm actually going
Yeah.
with my family on Sunday. We're going to the Midway,
Mm.
the aircraft carrier down here in San Diego, and they have a thing called
Yeah.
Jingle on the Jets. So they
Oh,
put Christmas
wow.
lights all around the jets. And so
That's
they're all
cool.
lined up there on the aircraft carrier. So it's really
Yeah.
cool. I know there's people go
Yeah.
out caroling, and
Yeah.
I love Christmas Eve service. It always brings a tingle up my spine when we light the candles and sing Silent
Yes.
Night. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but I
Yeah.
get a little emotional, but it's a good emotional.
Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
feeling. And so I encourage anybody out there, don't sit home with the curtains closed,
Mm-mm.
dark, feeling,
Mm-mm.
woe is me.
Mm-mm.
Pray to the Lord to give you
Mm-hmm.
that heart for the season, and realize
Yeah.
that this season it's for Christ. We're celebrating the birth of our Savior. And
Yeah.
like he said, what better gift than the salvation that Christ provides for us? And, it
Absolutely.
is exciting. So turn
Yeah.
that around. Don't be moping around and sad.
Yeah.
There is time to grieve, and I understand
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
this is a time for us to be happy, and we're celebrating. Like he said, he's the reason for this season. Put
Correct.
Christ back in Christmas and don't lose
Mm-hmm.
focus. That's the
Right.
main thing. You got to always remember, keep your focus on the Lord. And
That's
that's the
right.
main important thing. So,
Yeah.
Stacy, thank you so
Good.
much for
Thank
everything
you.
that you told us today. I'm sure a lot of people will get a lot from this. Make sure if you go to trueyouministries.com, you can share this with your friends. And maybe you need to listen to this again and write down some notes. So just go to trueyouministries.com. If you want to reach out to Stacy, call her at 626-461-3344 or email her at info@trueyouministries.com. Until next time, God bless. You've been listening to True You Ministries with pastoral counselor Stacy Echeverria. Stacy is a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught her the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. You can learn more about Stacy and her heartfelt desire to help people, much like yourself, who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling her at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344. Or feel free to email her at info@trueyouministries.com. That email once again is info@trueyouministries.com. Thank you for tuning into today's show, and we'll see you next week at the same time. And may God richly bless you.